Hi, this week we are joined by Max, who is a video producer and script editor from our
Hello.
studio audience. So what are your day-to-day responsibilities like?
So day to day, basically my day involves planning videos. So usually that'll begin with like an idea for a title or like a thumbnail. So we're based on YouTube, so we get all our money basically from ad revenue. So we spend a lot of our time just like designing thumbnails and like coming up with script ideas around that. So once we have like an idea that's evolved into a full plan that we've done like loads of research on, then that will mean me like sort of writing up the script, and like sort of providing all the necessary resources for the creation of the video, which is what happens next. So once the script's been written, we send it off to get narrated, because even though we're based in London, the majority of our audience is in America. So we have an American voiceover artist who does the narrations for us. And once that comes through, we send it off to our editing team. And we have the sort of any necessary illustrations done, because we do a lot of animated sequences. And we have all the sort of like necessary Photoshop stuff designed and made, and then it's just a matter of like sort of pulling together a video, and that can take quite a while. So that's not usually just done in a day, but yeah, the other sort of duties will involve like overseeing the produced videos that have come through and sort of like giving detailed feedback to how to get them to where they need to be to meet the standards of the channel. And yeah, that's usually the sort of outline of the day. The day can follow many different paths depending on what what kind of tasks need to be addressed on that day.
And when you're like sorting through the whole process of making a video to start to finish, would it always start with sort of a thumbnail idea, or maybe like have you seen something else online and that sort of sparked inspiration?
So yeah, the majority of the time, because our channel is sort of we cover like a huge range of topics and like different types of videos. So like things from like fact-based lists to like true stories that we bring to life, or like sort of little tips and tricks, like sort of like life pro tip kind of things. Because there's such a range of things like that, the initial spark of the idea can come in many forms, but usually we'll see like an image or a video that's like extremely striking, because at the end of the day, for YouTube as a medium, unless you have like a very specific thing that you're offering. So for example, like if you're like a music channel that teaches people how to like play like jazz and like the stuff like that, or like you're a film channel that sort of specializes in teaching about film theory, like unless you're one of those niches, you sort of have to, you can't really just rely on subscribers for views. So to make a video go viral, you need, really crucially, is you need a good thumbnail. You need a thumbnail that, out of all the videos that appear on the homepage or on the sort of like suggested videos down the side, you need something that's going to catch someone's eye initially. And also like a factor in that is that it can't be just like nonsense. It can't, you could easily just, put up a really badly photoshopped video, and a lot of channels do that. But what the thing is about that, basically the way YouTube works is, if it didn't used to be this way, but now if you do like sort of fully clickbait that hard, you put like something that's really badly photoshopped just to get people to click on it, and then you don't deliver on actually showing that thing is like real, people will comment something along those lines. They'll dislike it, and YouTube won't favor that video. The spark is often just the thumbnail, and then you find like a suitable topic that matches with that, and you sort of you come up with something good, something factual, and something interesting, and you go from there. Sometimes it does work the other way around, and you do just have a topic idea that you think will work. That can come like just from anywhere really. But with these types of videos, most of the time you want to have like a strong starting point, and a thumbnail is a good place to start with something like that.
Yeah. And when it comes to sort of gauging how well things are going to perform and whether they're going to go viral, is that something that you usually know before you post, or when you started, was it a bit of trial and error? And then like, do you look at stats and stuff to influence your decisions?
Yeah, so there's a lot that goes into it. For one thing, you can have a look on sort of like social media sites. Like Reddit is really good for this kind of thing. And if you see like an image on there that's gone like really viral, it usually sort of like trickles from there down to like other social media sites like Twitter and Instagram. If there's an image that's been successful on there, that can sometimes be a good starting point. You can, if you start from a point of like a topic and you go from there, it can be useful to see if anybody else has done something similar, and then what's worked and what hasn't worked on other similar topics that have been covered by other channels. There's usually certain like elements that you can distill from the thumbnails that they've used. So you don't want to take their thumbnails, so you just want to sort of find some way of distilling that like down to the essence of it, of what's caught the eye of viewers and what works about it. But we do run a lot of analysis on our thumbnails, for example. So we do a lot of like A/B testing of we'll upload a video and we'll give it one certain thumbnail that we think will do well, usually based on either other trends that we've noticed of to do with like that image, or previous things that have done well for us. So like we might notice that, for example, one thing that does usually does quite well is if you have like a picture of like a vibrant ocean with like something submerged under the water, like some kind of large object, that just seems to grab people's attention quite effectively. So we think about like colors and like the layout of things like that. YouTube gives you the information of like the click-through rate, basically. So you can see every time your video appears on like a recommended page, you get to see what percentage of people are clicking that when it sort of appears to them. So you want to have that to be as high as possible, and if it is really high, then you're onto a winner, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are the kind of things we consider for a thumbnail.
And you've mentioned that some videos can take, well, I mean, probably most of them take longer than a day. So is it a process where you're just making one video at a time, or are you sort of working on multiple different things at once?
Yeah, no, we have a lot going at the same time. So we've got a team of like multiple editors and multiple writers. So we'll all be the writers will tend to produce like around a script every day or so, and we can send those off. But the editing team will be managing several projects at a time, because these are the videos we do are between like 15 and 25 minutes. So basically we have multiple projects on the go, and it allows us to upload once a day, with the amount of how big our team is working on it.
Yeah. And when it comes to video editing and actually making the thumbnails, is there any sort of specialist software you use, or just any programs you use to get those done?
Yeah, so for the thumbnails, it would usually be Photoshop. It's a solid bet. We do sometimes do illustrated thumbnails as well. So those are more for things where you might be talking about a story-based thing, like something like from history, perhaps. Like we did one recently that was like worst years to travel back in time to, and that was quite interesting. So we came up with like thumbnails for that were illustrated. So it was like you might have like a picture of a person like walking along and encountering like a dinosaur or something like that. So that will be sort of the way that's sketched out and drawn is kind of like at the discretion of whoever is designing and creating that thumbnail. But in terms of editing, I personally use Final Cut Pro, but most of our editing team tends to favor the Adobe softwares.
Aside from like obviously knowing how to use that sort of stuff, are there any other skills that you think are essential for the job?
Yeah, so you need to be able to think like laterally and think outside of the box, because um, to come up with like video ideas that are interesting to people, like what you're essentially like trying to appeal to curiosity of like a huge mass of like strangers. So you need to sort of have a good understanding of how to generate curiosity. So you need to be thinking, and this applies to like the internal of the video as well. So to keep people watching, because it's not like TV, you know, like where people tune in, they're probably going to stick around just till the end of it and not change the channel. With like entertainment on the internet, you have to be constantly sort of like justifying people's desire to continue watching. So you have to be like generating curiosity throughout. So it helps in that regard to like to be able to put yourself in the position of the viewer and to think like what might they be wondering about this topic, and how can you engage with that. And that really serves as like a guide for the process, which is quite handy to have as a skill. But also, you know, just like thinking creatively and outside of the box is useful for the whole thing, because the best ideas that perform like amazingly well are like new ones that haven't been done before. And that requires like sort of an understanding of, I suppose, like internet culture to an extent, what kind of things are being discussed at that time, what the sort of like zeitgeist is of the time. You also want to have like a sort of an ability to motivate yourself to keep going, because it's pretty demanding, like the cycle of production for like a YouTube channel, because it's sort of like it's non-stop. So you need to be able to sort of find the drive to keep going and like know how to sort of unwind to avoid burnout and things like that. But yeah, I'd say the most important thing is like a sort of a balance of like creativity, critical thinking, and curiosity, and an ability to generate curiosity. The thing about working remotely is like you're not with your co-workers, and when in a creative job, it's you know, everybody else is like an open book to pull from ideas. You know, when you're all sort of working together, it's a lot easier to sort of get in the creative headspace when it's not just you alone in a room. But you know, yeah, it's part of the job again, is like honing your ability to sort of like switch on creativity, regardless of what the circumstances of your day or your situation are. You know, to have like success in that area, like on YouTube specifically, it needs to be able to be switched on. So I think everybody sort of has their own rituals of how they get focused, be it like looking, maybe like browsing a few sort of other sites, seeing what other people are doing. I can get the ideas flowing a little bit. Yeah, so I'd say like exposing yourself to the kind of content you want to be making is a pretty good way to get that going. If it's struggling, which it is, you know, it is harder when you're working from home.
Yeah,
for sure.
definitely. And has working from home impacted any other areas of your job? Like if you're like filming stuff remotely or interviewing people remotely?
So generally, the way that we produce content, it's possible to do it remotely without too much of a difference. I'd say, you know, like the one obstacle is that you can't. It's harder to get instant communication with people when you're working remotely. You can't just turn to your colleague and ask them a simple question. You have to send them a message, wait for them to see it, wait for them to respond. And you know, those messages can like pile up, and it ends up just being a bit frustrating to be able to get like what is usually a very smooth process. But generally, it's not too bad, because we can still share a lot of our ideas with each other. We can still communicate. But I'd say the main thing is that, for example, if we're planning a video, it's really useful to have multiple pairs of eyes on something, because somebody might be able to offer an idea for a thumbnail or they may be aware of something that would really stick out and be interesting to include. So when we're in the office and we're planning, we sit down in a meeting room together and we sort of just like hash it out, and that's a really nice way to do it. You can't really do that so much when you're working remotely, because even though you could do a video call, it's not quite the same. There's something different about it, like
Yeah.
I can't quite describe what it is, but I think there's something about being there in the room together really lends itself well to creativity.
Yeah, definitely. And with the videos that you produce, so some people might see it through a recommended video, or if it's about a particular topic, people might be searching for it. But for you and actually growing your account, what is best for that? Like, how do people find your videos that way and stuff?
So our particular channel, basically the majority of the views we get are people who are not our subscribers. So we have quite a high subscriber count as it is, but the majority of views come from our videos picking up steam and just being favored by the YouTube algorithm. So the one like biggest thing to, and we also post on like Facebook and TikTok and Instagram as well. The biggest thing is really just understanding the algorithm and how it works. Once the channel does grow, you do get a little bit more like sort of clout in terms of recommendation of your content, but that's mainly because YouTube, the algorithm recognizes that you've had a lot of like successful videos, and so the chances of you making another good one are quite high, so it's going to give you a little bit of a boost. But like you can still totally bomb on YouTube with videos if it's not a good video, people don't respond well to it. Or even if it is something, that's like kind of the hard thing. Like sometimes it can be what you think is like the best video you've made, but it's just not like it doesn't have like a strong enough thumbnail to pull people in.
Yeah.
You can get that, but the main way to sort of drive traffic to YouTube channel is just to make content that just catches people's interest straight away. Like the title and thumbnail. That I keep saying it, but that's basically the essence of it. You need to have that title and thumbnail, and then another factor that quantifies it that sort of like factors into the success of a video is the viewer retention rate, which is how much of the video people tend to watch before they drop off. And YouTube gives you that data, it gives you that information. So when you're like thinking about the success of a video, it's got to be interesting from start to finish. So there are various like sort of ways that you can try and improve how you retain viewers, and one way might be to sort of establish that you've got something really interesting coming up later on in the video and then sort of hint forward at it. Another thing could be that you sort of like you might pop your thumbnail entries or whatever to sort of towards the middle or towards the back end, because you don't want to, if you want to retain viewers, that's quite a handy way to do it. But basically the main thing is YouTube's algorithm is kind of frustrating at times, but the way it's designed is pretty clever, because it basically does just favor high quality content. So like content that people engage with well and react to positively, it just it favors that. And so it's kind of straightforward, it's just like make really good stuff and post regularly. That's basically the way it goes. If you're starting with like a really small channel, you might it might take a while for one to take off as you're sort of figuring that formula out. But that's all there is to it, really. You got to just keep posting and keep trying to improve it. And as you understand like the craft of it a little bit more, hopefully the views will come. But it's kind of it's unpredictable sometimes. But if somebody is starting out on YouTube, they can find what they do well, and the likelihood is there'll be an audience for it. It's just about sort of giving the audiences the sort of standards and quality and like sort of expertise on the topic that they want.
Yeah. And for people who are wanting to get into video production, would you say it's better for them to start their own account and showcase what they can do, or get work experience and just go down that route, or maybe uni could be a better choice? Like, is there a preference, or does it just not really matter as long as you have the skills?
That's a good question. I think there are a lot of paths to it. So for me personally, I my degree was English and history. So my it had nothing to do with video production, but it depends on what kind of, if YouTube specifically was something that you wanted to go into, then it's a very fresh and new sort of media format. So I think really your best bet would be just to find a way of gaining the knowledge and the skills to be able to create good content. For like media production in general, it seems like a media degree is like a useful thing to have, like something specifically in videography. But to be honest with you, like the internet is like an incredible resource for this kind of thing. Like when I graduated, I didn't really know too much about video production, but I spent a lot of time just absorbing like countless YouTube videos and different sort of short courses online about the basics, and sort of over time I built up quite a good understanding. I started like creating my own stuff, which is how I ended up getting the job that I have now, because I had examples of that, but also the writing side of things that I'd done. But yeah, I think it's hard to say whether one path serves more usefully than others. But if you're doing your own thing, all that really matters is that you are able to sort of get a real sense of what, like the actual quality of what you're making. Because sometimes when you make something, you can be either too harsh on yourself, or you can be like sort of not critical enough. So I think the good thing about having like a university education in the topic is that you'll not just get like a chance to learn those skills and try and test them out, but you'll also have feedback from an expert in the area, which can be really helpful, because that's sort of an essential thing, because they're going to be able to point out things that you would just never notice. But in a roundabout way to a rambling answer, it's sort of just like find a way to develop the skills and get honest feedback. And I think that's probably the two most important things that you need.
Yeah. And do you have any last words of wisdom for people who are wanting to get into script writing or video production?
Well, so I don't want to be too cliche with it, but with anything, that if you want to turn something creative into a career of some kind, you just need to be like just proficient at it, and you need to be like reliably good at it, and you need to be able to not just like sort of deliver once, but like sort of consistently deliver. And I've found that the only way to guarantee that is just through like repetition. So if you want to get into writing, just write as often as you can. Try to absorb as much like information from other writers and share your stuff with other people. Learn to be sort of like disciplined in your creativity, because there's an endless amount of people out there who are saying, oh, I'm gonna write this thing and it's gonna be amazing, but very very few people actually do it. So being disciplined with yourself and just sort of like focusing and doing what you need to do to get where you want is important. It requires quite a lot of resilience, because to be able to get a job in doing something creative is really hard. And again, you're competing with some like amazing people. So you need to just be, it helps to be sort of like, personable, because, it's often a matter of, making it clear that you have an ability in this whatever creative pursuit it is, but you also need to be able to work with other people, because collaboration is important. So like seeking out chances to collaborate with people, be it online on like sort of posting stuff to other people's blogs, or even just like sort of creating short funny video skits with your friends. You just need, I think there's another thing, is that you need to have some kind of proof of what you can do, because you may be exceptional, but if you haven't got something to share with the world, and to prove to put your sort of like talent on paper or on video, however you want to do it, then it's difficult to sort of share, to prove that to people. So yeah, just make stuff basically.